So you just want to make sure you have focal points in your mood boards, and your mood board just makes sense. Hey guys, what is up? My name is Michaela Smith Campbell, the fashion designer and founder for the fashion design brand MACK Smith, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, I am super excited to be going over with you guys because I'm going to be going over how to create a mood board more so in depth. I previously mentioned mood boards previously on my channel, but I really wanted to create a video and dedicate it to just creating a mood board. This video is really for any of you who might be starting a collection or starting any creative project and you want to start with a mood board but you just don't know how. I'm here to tell you in this video, so stay tuned. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up as well. So before we even dive into the first step in creating a mood board boards are super important to have when creating anything project-wise, creative-wise, collection for maybe a fashion collection wise, because they really are the foundation of creating a concept. They're really the foundation of whatever project it is that you're creating in terms of creating a clear message of how you want your project or collection to look, and later better communicate to any of the audience that you want to showcase your project or collection to. It's super important to have your concept down. That's why we have the mood board, so that you're clear on your message, or you might be trying to evoke a certain emotion, connection in your collection or project that you want to convey to your audience. This is where it all happens, the magic of the mood board. So the first step in creating a mood board is to create a concept. Not only create a concept, but research your concept and gather visual inspiration. That is the first most important step, is a concept. Always have some foundation and some substance to what it is that you're creating so that you can evoke a certain emotion or a connection or story to your audience. Super, super important to have. And in your research for your concept, once you do create a concept, look through inspirational sources such as magazines. It could be film, it could be art, it could be pieces of literature, it could be nature, it could be people or culture, anything that you can reference and use your sources. Sources are super important to help get inspiration on how you want to convey your concept, and sometimes can help you create a concept. If you know, for example, you want to do a summer wear collection, maybe on, let's just say like bikinis or something, you can create a concept, and by looking at nature, getting inspired by nature, you can find it through films, summer beach films, and just some images that you might find through magazines. Or if you're looking online too, you could use Pinterest. I think Pinterest is a great app for great quality pictures. You can find inspiration through street style, through architecture as well. It's super important to use different forms of sources while researching your concept, because it's very gonna much inspire you and think outside of the box. And when you put them all together, it's going to really help you create a concept rather than just looking just at magazines. Because sometimes when you look at magazines, especially specific sort of magazines, like if, for example, fashion magazine, you're only going to be looking at those kind of styles of magazines and not looking outside of the box from their own style of magazines, if that makes sense. So I highly encourage you guys to use different sources when it comes to your research. Sometimes when you go through different sources while finding and researching your concept, you can sometimes pick up on themes too that you're naturally attracted to for your concept, such as you might find similar shapes that you're drawn to, similar colors, similar textures. So having different resources while you're gathering more research and gathering information for your concept is super, super helpful and super important as well. So the next step in creating your mood board for whatever creative project that you're starting or collection that you're starting is to organize your selected content. Better yet, filtering out the content that you already have from all those sources and picking out the best or strongest ones that help you convey your concept and ideas. So when it comes to organizing this selected content, you will be selecting the best photos that you feel best helps convey your concept strongly. And of course, always when selecting certain images, if you are doing magazine clips of art, or if you have done screenshots from your favorite film, always use the strongest, clearest images, especially if you're creating and building up and using this in your portfolio. Have clear images. And in this second step, it's super important that you gather all your filtered content that you feel best conveys your concept. And in the process of organizing, once you have all those done, you can also start adding in your fabric swatches. You can start adding on any prints or patterns that you feel you want to use in your project or collection that helps conveys that concept and that story or emotion you're trying to invoke from your audience. And this is also the time to be also finding great textures to use as well. When it comes to organizing all of your content, of course, fabric is super important. Texture is super important. Colors, patterns are super important when it comes to organizing all of your selected content in this second step. Fabric, of course, depending on the season that you want to do. If you are doing, for example, a summer wear collection, fabric is super important to have. I'm not going to be having, for example, Sherpa or furs or just heavier fabric for the summer. So you have to be very knowledgeable of your fabric and the texture. Super important. During the time of this second step where you're organizing all your content, visually, it's sometimes easier, and this is different for everybody, but for me, I'm a very visual person. For my experience, it's sometimes easier just laying out all of your pictures, all of your images, all of your fabric swatches first, and then kind of grouping things that you see as a commonality between all the pictures. So for example, if you do have a lot of blue colors, and then there might be two pictures or two references to something odd, like orange, for example, sometimes you might want to stick with that blue, or sometimes you might like pops of orange. So it can give you an idea of like, hey, maybe the color of this project or the main color of this collection could be blue with hints of oranges. So sometimes it is a lot easier to lay out everything and kind of start playing with it and grab pieces that you like that work well together. And sometimes this could take you the longest too, because as you're organizing things, you might like different shapes, you might like different textures. So really take the time to organize it, because this will reflect in your collection. So you want to make sure that you have this step down to help convey your concept, and it will go into your collection pieces somehow, some way, through the silhouette, color, texture, fabric. So really hone into what you want out of this second step so it can better translate into your collection. Every creative portfolio should have a mood board in it. And if you are designing a collection, whether it's upholstery or whether it's a fashion design collection, always include fabric swatches in it. If you are using the portfolio to apply for jobs in person and you're handing somebody your portfolio to look at, and for yourself, especially while you're in the midst of designing, it's super important so that you can actually feel the fabric and cut it out. I would recommend 1 by 1, 1 inch by 1 inch, so that way it's enough surface area to really look at the pattern or look at the print or look at the weave and texture, just so you can get like a physical, tangible idea of what your collection and looks are going to be. Because there are certain fabrics that, for example, if you are sticking to a summer collection, you might want to use some drapey fabric. So if you have a visual, tangible piece of a fabric one by one, you can imagine how it drapes, and you can kind of play too with the little fabric swatch too, how it would drape. That's enough surface area to kind of play with it, see how it folds. So that's always a good piece to have. And depending on how big your mood board is too, if you're doing a mood board just for yourself, you could do a 2x2 fabric swatch, 2 inches by 2 inches for yourself. The professional way to do it is just by having a 1 inch by 1 inch square cut perfectly. If you are turning it in or showcasing it to a company or a design brand you would like to work for, I would say 1 inch by 1 inch would be good. So the next step to creating a mood board is choosing your medium. Some people do digital and some people create a physical mood board. For me, it depends on what kind of project or collection you're working on. For me, I would recommend doing a digital mood board because it's going to be a lot more likely, especially if you want to add this collection, add this project to your portfolio. More than likely not, when applying to jobs or when applying to internships, you will be handing in your portfolio digitally with your application before you even get an interview and before these brands, jobs, or other bigger designers even look at you. So I would highly recommend doing everything digital first. And I would also highly recommend doing digital as well when it comes to creating mood boards, because also it's a lot cleaner and it looks a lot more professional and it's a lot more easier to edit as well. Instead of using tape or glue, it just is a lot more easier to edit and to delete things or get rid of things or add things or copy and paste a certain image different multiple ways. It's so much more easier and cleaner and professional looking. And this also goes into a portfolio. I would highly recommend for any of you creators out there. I would also highly do a digital portfolio as well, because again, if you are applying for jobs or if you are networking with other people and you want to show them your work, it's a lot more easier for people to click a link and see your portfolio rather than you carrying your portfolio around, one. And two, your digital portfolio, you can always go back and make little updates or edits, and it's just so much more easier to network and just have that out there. And not only that, it's easier to pass in a digital portfolio. You can make several copies of your portfolio rather than a physical portfolio or a physical mood board. It just is so much more cleaner overall. To help you create a concept and to help you organize your mood board, you can always just do a physical one for yourself. That always works too. But if you are taking it on another level, if you are doing a full collection you want to add to your portfolio, I would highly recommend the digital way. For the long run too, if you ever want to use your mood board or use that collection process of having your portfolio, your fabrics, and all of your full collection work, you can always print out, in the long run, if you do want a physical copy, you can always print out each page, like a mood board page or your illustration page. In the long run, based on your digital portfolio, it's super easy, you guys, and super quick too. And if you do get a lot of different sources of content from things like pictures or nature, or you might find physical tangible pieces, it's always easy to take pictures of those or scan them. For example, if you're using fabrics and you've got physical fabrics and you want to add it to your digital mood board or digital portfolio, you can go to Kinko's, you can go to Staples, you can get the pieces of fabric and then you can just scan it on the machine. And then it's a scanned piece of fabric, so you're able to see the actual weave, see the color, and it's actually a great tool to use as well. You just use your resources, you guys, and just know where to look. There are certain software that you can use to help you digitally. My favorite software tools to use are the Adobe software tools. I love using Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, InDesign to really help me implement my concept and clean up and edit and add different touches and, you know, wording, do cool things with the lettering, maybe if I have letters or wording on my mood boards. Of course, you have to pay for those monthly, and you can like learn too. For those of you who might be starting from scratch, you're probably gonna have to be learning and doing, you know, referencing YouTube videos step by step on how to use those software tools. But if you don't know how to use those software tools, there's also apps you can use, such as Canva. Canva is also very, very helpful. For me, even still, when I do some of my YouTube thumbnails, I use Canva. Canva is like your best friend if you do not know how to use software editing tools. You can also go to Canva, for example, as an app to edit your mood board, add pictures and all your scanned references and whatnot. Canva is super fun to use. For those of you who are just beginning, I would highly recommend Canva. And Canva is also free. If you want to use certain tools, you have to pay a monthly fee. I don't know if it's $9.99. I forgot how much I pay per month. Canva is a great starting tool for those of you who are trying to get into the digital aspect of designs, of creative content and whatnot. Next up, once you have your concept, your desired selected content, and also have figured out your desired medium, whether it's digital or physical, the next step is arranging your content. So for example, if we're sticking to the digital, I'm going to be arranging all the pictures and all the fabric swatches I have scanned, and I'm going to be really looking at how I want to create a layout, how I want to utilize the spacing, how do I want to utilize these shapes, where do I want to place the shapes, where do I want to place the pictures. And I highly recommend in this next and fourth step to start off with vibe setting images and then adding details on top. And sometimes some mood boards can look completely different. Some people like the idea of having a collage mood board with a lot of stuff. Some people like the minimal look of a mood board and maybe having 3 pictures of details. It could be a, for example, like the rim of a seashell or the seashell pattern or texture up close, and utilizing, if you're doing that summer collection, if you want to, are inspired by seashells, you might have up close images of seashells that are really detailed and not blurry images, might I add. No blurry images. Make sure their images are very clear, crystal clear, and you can see the richness of the color in the seashell pattern or textures that you might improvise and portray in your collection with shapes and silhouettes and whatnot. So just using those details after you figure out what you want your base background vibe setting to be can be super helpful when it comes to helping you layer. Make sure the colors make sense. Make sure the sizing of certain images makes sense, because if you have all big images on your mood board, it is hard to figure out what the main focal point is on your mood board if you have a lot of these similar images or big images everywhere without any detail. Sometimes the details can get lost in all the noise. So you just want to make sure you have focal points in your mood boards, and your mood board just makes sense. Make sure the proportions make sense, the balance, the spacing, and movement where your eye is drawn to just makes sense when you're looking at and you're working with the content that you're arranging. Because the goal is, in this step, is to create a clear narrative that narrates your concept or evokes a certain emotion when you are looking at it. I mean, overall, it is a mood board. It's supposed to convey your concept, convey an emotion, especially if you're a viewer or you're showing this in front of an audience. You want them to fully understand before even looking at your project or pieces what they're in for. And it could have a certain phrase too. For example, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but I'm thinking of Taylor Swift, Life of a Showgirl. Automatically, when I hear certain words and if I saw that on a mood board, Life of a Showgirl, it would have helped me better yet understand the story of the mood and the concept you're trying to create through visual interpretation on your mood board. So sometimes wording can help. I wouldn't say a lot of words, but sometimes when you do see a catchy phrase or a title on the mood board, you can better understand. And then last but certainly not least, this step is the reviewing and finalizing of the mood board. This is the last step to make any adjustment to your mood board, just double checking. And sometimes in this last step, because you know yourself what your concept you're trying to convey is, sometimes it can get a little blurry for you to fully see if your mood board is matching to the concept or emotion or story you're trying to tell. Sometimes in this step, it is super helpful to review this over with a friend or a family member and just see where their eye is drawn to, and what emotion they feel and what the story is. Sometimes it's okay just to ask somebody what your concept could be portraying, because sometimes what looks like to you a story of a, you know, somebody falling in love on a beach kind of story or concept for a summer beach theme collection or project, for somebody else out on the outside looking in, it might not convey that sometimes. So always be open to critiquing and adjustments to people around you that you trust the most, that will give you their valuable feedback. Super important to have. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below on these 5 steps to creating a mood board. I definitely want to hear them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and also give this video a thumbs up as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.